All right, so we ran into our first snag trying to put that pot on that grate with those chains. Won't fit. So we're going to use a roasting pan to make maple syrup today. And here's our collection bucket. Let's see how full we are. I put this out Wednesday afternoon. Ooh, look at that. We got a little ice on there. This is going to be good. And I got what I hope is, well, I got firewood there to throw on the fire to keep it going. But unfortunately, that wood right there was just cut this year, so it's not ready yet. But I got all that scrap crap, scrub stuff, and I got all of this. So hopefully we have enough firewood. Otherwise, we're going to be finished this thing on a dual LP burner that I got for camping. So we'll see what happens. All right, wish me luck. Yeah, that pot's never going to fit. Right now, here we go. Fire's been lit, and we're going to let that cook down for a little bit, get a good bed of coals going. I found one of those Thanksgiving aluminum foil roaster pans that we're gonna, and I checked, and it just slides right in there. So that'll be perfect. So once we get a good bed of coals going, we'll drop the grate down and insert the pan, and then pour in the maple sap, and we'll be going. So one of the things that you have to do before you start cooking is to remove the ice that is in the sap container. I mean, technically you don't have to, but it just means more stuff that takes longer for you to evaporate. So you just take your little drink screen, you just scoop it up and you dump it out. But just fish around in there. See if you have any more. Nope, no more. So we'll double check after I pour this, but I'm pretty sure that I got about 3 gallons worth of maple sap. You can see it's still dripping. It's important to put your spile on the south side of the tree where you're going to get the most sunlight. The first time I did it, I put it on the wrong side of the tree, so I didn't get as much sap, but it went bad anyway, so I didn't lose much. But I put this out here Wednesday night about 6 o'clock, and it's now Sunday at about 1:30, and I'd say I got about 3 gallons. But we'll measure it out just to be sure, so I can tell you exactly how much I gathered in 4 days. All right, bye. All right, so it looks like we got about a good bed of coals going there. I just threw in some extra wood. So we're gonna use this, and we're gonna lower the grate down to about there, about 8-10 inches above the coals. And now we're gonna insert my roasting pan, because that's all I got. Now we're gonna grab the sap and pour the sap in. All right, after doing some hustling and some digging, I managed to keep the fire going, and I got my old cast iron grill or pot out. So we're gonna get that fire back up and going. And now I made sure that the stupid thing would balance in there. So we'll see how we do. Let that fire get good and hot again. And we'll try number 2, plan C. All right, well, 30 minutes after I started, I finally have a pot of maple sap on the fire. So we'll see what happens. You can already see that some of the ash has gotten in there, and that's normal because you're going to strain the sap a couple times to get out any impurities, anything that ash and soot, anything that came up out of the fire and landed up in there. So that's completely normal when you're cooking maple sap down into syrup. All right, we'll keep you posted. One more thing to note, because I didn't get to use a size pot that I wanted to do it all in one pot, which would have taken longer. But as this cooks down and becomes, burns off a lot of the moisture and starts making it into syrup, I didn't use all the sap. So I hung the bucket back up, and you can see I still got, I don't know, a good 4 or 5 cups, maybe a gallon of sap left. So as it cooks down, I'll add more of this to it until I cook it all down. So we'll see how it goes. So it's been about 20 minutes, and you can see on the top there's some scum. And what you do is every half an hour to an hour you come in and you just kind of scrape that stuff off with the same mesh screen that we use to get the ice out of the sap. You just come and scrape that off and you just keep on going. So that's kind of what you want to see. I just skimmed the gook out. I think a lot of that gook might be the seasoning from the pot, which I don't know if that's going to affect it or not, but you can see down in there, see the rolling boil. That's what you want. Just let it cook on down. It's going to take a couple hours. So get a good book, get some coffee, keep an eye on the fire. That's all you do. All right. Okay, so it's been on for about an hour, and I don't know if you can tell it, but it's cooked down about an inch. So what we do now is we go back to our bucket and we slowly add in that inch, and we just keep on cooking it down. Wish me luck. Hope I don't spill it. All right, so as expected, the boil that I had going is now stopped because I added cold maple sap to it. So we'll get that back up to a boil, and we'll skim off all the gook like we did before. And we'll keep going. And I've got probably one more add of the same amount. So we'll let that boil down for another hour. Then I'll add the remaining sap that I've got. And then once it boils down again, double the amount of boil down, so 2 inches lower. Then we'll start looking at temperature, because you want to get it to about 217 degrees, and that's when you pull it. You let it cool and you start straining, and then you start bottling. Maybe I'll be done before the sun comes down, but I doubt it. Well, it's been about another hour, maybe. Could be maybe 45 minutes, but we had 2 boil overs. So you got to be careful of that. Keep an eye on stuff. And with this setup, you got to keep adjusting the height of the grate, because when you add wood in there, it tends to get a little hot for a little bit. So I keep having to move the grate up and down to keep a good rolling boil, good temperature on there. But you really got to watch it. Look at that. I'm going to add some more sap to it. That'll cool it down. All right. The sap bucket is officially empty. So is that cooler. It's just a footstool. But you can see I'm back up to where I started, and I've come back up to that height 3 times. This is the 3rd time. Now, we're just going to let it cook on down until it's about halfway, maybe even less than that. But when it gets down to about halfway, I'm going to throw the candy thermometer in there and start monitoring the temperature, because when I get to 217, I want to pull it, let it cool down, then I'm going to strain it, then I'm going to bottle it. Could be fun and messy. Of that I have no doubt. So to pass the time while I wait for the sap to cook down and thicken up and turn into syrup, I set up my dual burner Camp Chef stove so that I can finish it in the pot, but I can finish it with a more controlled heat and flame and temperature and all that. It's difficult to control the temperature on a campfire like that, but you can see the smoke, steam coming out of the pot. Well, of course it went away as soon as I put the camera on it, but you get the idea. So we'll let that cook down some more. It's been about 2.5 hours. I've got all the sap in the pot, and maybe we'll be done by sundown. All right, so it cooked down, and then we filtered it through this wet filter that I bought as part of the tree tapping kit. And that's how much I have to go into my finishing pot. So now I'm going to finish it on my dual burner camp stove so I don't have to cook anything inside. And I'll put the sugar thermometer in there and get her up to about 219 degrees and call it a day. We'll filter it as we put it into the bottles. So we're almost at 219, and you can see how the bubbles are forming. That's what you want to get it to. Unfortunately, we didn't have as much sap as we needed to get a good, and you can see there's barely anything left in this pot, so I don't know how much is going to be in this bottle when we bottle it. But we'll see in a couple minutes. Almost there. All right, so that's what 4 hours worth of labor looks like. 1/3 of a bottle, and we had about 3 gallons or so of sap. We're gonna let it drip for a little bit because I want every frickin' drop of this because I worked really hard on it. But that's what the inside of the filter looks like after you strain it and get it all in there. What?
That's called sugar sap, the stuff that's left in there.
Yeah, sugar sap. Good catch.